bit of the agricultural economy, and also its bustling markets are shaping that beauty that we see when it comes to green action. And indeed, we are happy to be bringing you that conversation right from the heart of that spot, where we can indeed talk about green cocoa processing, looking at energy efficiency and waste management. This is the reason for which my panelists are very seasoned in the cocoa industry, as we explore efficient ways of energy and, of course, dealing with issues of waste as well in the cocoa sector. So please relax and be a part of the conversation. You can keep sending us your comments and let's be interactive. But ladies and gentlemen, if you are excited as I am to be a part of this conversation, please, with a round of applause, help me say hello to our friends watching us online. And for those in the audience as well, please, a round of applause for our panelists here as well. And yes, indeed, we are delighted. And once more, let me say how elated I am to be commending the German people for the strong partnership that we enjoy. We are live on the Joy News channel again. And just a reminder that many of you who are joining us online can be a part of this conversation, because we are making it as inclusive as possible. What a stunning view and breathtaking view from Fair Afrique here. And of course, we're grateful that the German people have supported us to bring Climate Talks here. And what a strong delegation the German mission in Accra has also brought us today. No other person than Frederick Lanshoft, the German ambassador designate to Ghana. He's joining us. Let's take a brief comment from him while we open up the show. A round of applause for Frederick, please, as we start our conversation.
JoyNews for this collaboration we deeply appreciate, and Fair Afrique, thanks for having us. Welcome to this edition of the Climate Talks here at Fair Afrique in Sehum. The series is about one goal: creating dialogue and awareness for climate action that also strengthens Ghana economic growth. That means supporting the implementation of the nationally determined contributions, the NDCs, and they set out a path to a low-carbon, climate-resilient society, combining growth with a social inclusion. And no one should be left behind during this transition. So why focus on cocoa processing? Cocoa is Ghana's pride and economic backbone. But factories consume large amounts of energy and generate waste. This is both a challenge and an opportunity. With better energy efficiency and waste-to-energy innovations, factories can lower costs, reduce emissions, and gain access to markets that increasingly demand sustainable products. Germany has made climate protection the backbone of its international engagement, and here in Ghana we collaborate on renewable energy, green jobs and sustainable industries. But one thing is clear: the public sector alone cannot deliver. The private sector must be at the forefront, bringing innovation, capital and technology. If companies take the lead in implementing NDC goals, they can transform Ghana's transition into a driver of competitiveness, resilience and prosperity. This is why today's focus on green cocoa processing is so timely. We will hear from Cocoa Board Fair Afrique and the Ghana National Cleaner Production Center about energy efficiency and waste management. Together, we will explore how policy, business and innovation can combine to make Ghana a global leader in sustainable cocoa producing. So let me warmly invite you to join the conversation, to share your expertise and to listen with an open mind. Thank you, and let us begin our first panel.
And this is the reason why we are grateful, as always, to the German mission here in Accra for supporting Climate Talks. Grateful to you, Ambassador-designate Frederick, for sharing those insightful words with us. It's something we've not paid attention to over the years, that cocoa production does contribute to emissions, even throughout the supply chains. There's the land use emission aspect that is also of concern to us. Grateful indeed to the German people for making this possible. And of course, on your favorite channel, Joy News, we are indeed shaping climate action together with those in the audience who are from all walks of life, of course, giving us their sense of what they feel about what could be done in green cocoa production. We're segmenting our conversation into two aspects, looking at energy efficiency, which is one leg, and also the other aspect, which has got to do with waste management. So that will inform our conversation over the next 50 minutes or so, I believe, and then later on we'll open up the floor to have as much as comments that we will like to have here on the show to inform the way forward. And what a better way to start, because I'm fortunate to be joined by the Managing Director of Fair Afrique, where we are. And I must first of all congratulate you on this beautiful scene. And I'm just wondering how you got to select this sport. Probably you share that story with us in the course of the discussion. But Michael Mamonhalm is Managing Director of Fair Afrique, and he's at the helm of the Fair Afrique Ghana Limited, which is bringing this whole initiative and transforming the face of Ghana's chocolate industry. And Michael has immense expertise in this field, a reason for which we're happy, Michael, that you're spending time, in spite of your busy schedule, just to be a part of today's conversation. Grateful and welcome. Eric Dixon Amengo is the Acting Deputy Director of Cocoa Board, in charge of monitoring and evaluation. Of course, Eric oversees the operational performance of key subsidiaries and divisions in Cocoa Board. He also supervises critical thematic areas covering child labor, gender, agroforestry, climate change, and also sustainability at Cocoa Board. Eric, you're welcome. But of course, just as custom would demand, you would want to hear from the hosts and to, of course, get a sense of why the sport, because we are all impressed about what you're doing here at Fair Afrique. So probably it's a good time for us to start with the Managing Director, just to find out how, of course, Michael, you were able to arrive at the sport, because once you're driving in, you see that view, very green view of what's happening here. Tell us a little about that secret behind the sport.
I'm not too sure if it's a secret, but just like you said, it's very obvious what we've tried to do here. I think as a brand, we have just been tired a bit about all the talks of true impact using business to end poverty. And for us, we began to actually walk the talk. First by choosing a rural community that produces organic cocoa beans in abundance here in Ghana in the eastern region. And then also coming very close to the farmers, because we believe that true business impact would be felt if we also go through the same frustration the community folks, the farmers, where we find ourselves equally go through. If we are a bit alarmed or challenged by these circumstances, we would definitely use our influence to change the narrative. And that's why we chose Suhum for this particular reason. And yes, we could have chosen Accra, for example. It would have made our lives very easy, because then there's everything in Accra. But we decided to make true impact using our business by situating it here.
I love the story, and it feeds into our green agenda for this morning. For those of you joining us online, apologies, but of course next time try and make some time and come over to Zoom so you see what's the beautiful things happening here at Fair Afrique. So now let's focus and talk about sustainability, because of course, Eric, if you're looking at the supply chain and of course the entire cocoa board, the cocoa industry, there are sustainability questions that will definitely come up. The issue about, first of all, how we can reduce emissions and also ensure that even right from the start, the land use emissions that we suffer in the production of the produce itself is lowered. How are you working at Cocoa Board towards tackling such a challenge, so that there's synergy and complementarity between downstream and also upstream in terms of regulation?
Thank you, Blizzard. And thank you. Good morning once again to members. In our cocoa board, in our second cocoa strategy document that we developed, we considered the nationally determined contributions that we are going to enforce in our strategy. First of all, in developing the strategy itself, we took into consideration all these facts, including emission reduction. So we carefully designed it to include climate-smart cocoa production, that's at the upstream, to complement the downstream decisions that are being taken down there. So we took it upon ourselves to develop a strategy, to standardize the production of cocoa, where we train farmers in how to practice their farming methods to be sustainably, to be sustainable. Yeah, if I may put it that way. So we developed this climate standards, and then through some of these private sector, WCF, and then the World Bank, were able to develop a manual which our community extension agents use in training these farmers. These climate smart cocoa practices involve agroforestry, where shade trees are being grown on the farms. Cocoa thrives in mostly the forests, so we have to go hand in hand. In doing this too, we collaborated with the Forestry Commission to involve ourselves in some of the emission reduction programs, and one of them was the Ghana Cocoa Forest Red Plus program, where Cocoa Board is also involved in training farmers on how to go to do sustainable farming. We also think we have to meet the global demands. So in doing so, we involved ourselves in training farmers and in training some of our stakeholders to be able to meet these global demands. So we have this Ghana Cocoa Traceability System, which has been put in place to trace the cocoa that we are producing from the plot of land to the port of destination. So these are traceable systems that have been put in place to make sure we produce our cocoa sustainably.
But for Ferrofric, I'm interested in knowing how you're integrating renewable energy, for instance, and efficiency into your operations, because as part of our nationally determined contributions, we're committing to that. So how, and by extension, private sector, how are you doing that and feeding into this whole agenda?
All right, thank you. So you realize that right from inception, we had thought about integrating renewable energy in our operations, because, to be honest, the amount of energy that is utilized for processing activities is quite huge. And whilst you do this, you definitely will be contributing to emissions in large volumes. So right from the start, we had thought about inculcating solar panel energy system within the structural framework. So you can see it's right behind you. It has about 564 solar panels generating up to about 268 kilovolts of energy that augments the needed energy to convert the cocoa beans you normally see on the farms to the lovely Ferrofric chocolate bars you see on the shelf.
So you're dependent totally on solar?
And not 100%, because, you know, at some point we had moved production from the regular 8 hours to 24 hours. I think we started a 24-hour economy already. And yeah, so we've had to shift and have an all-round production cycle, meaning that in the evenings, for example, we cannot obviously use solar energy because we don't have batteries at the moment. But yes, it's a combination of grid energy and solar panel energy as well.
And how sustainable is this?
It has been. The reports actually show that even in 2025, year to date, the total amount of solar energy our panels have generated, even considering this state of weather, has been more than about 187,000 kilowatts. Now, this augments more than 30% to 45% of what we would regularly have had from the grid. Now, if you compare it to how much carbon emission we have saved, this is in excess of 200,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide that we have saved the environment, So is it sustainable? Yes, to a large extent. The cost of operations also has its fair share of impact. You would see that the amount of energy we are paying comparing both grid and solar, there's a wide variation. And this also supports the business in terms of cash flow management as well. So indeed, yes, it's very sustainable.
The reason why I was asking the question was because of the revelation I had when, of course, this promo for this event was done, that even in the production of one cocoa pod, there's so much emissions that are taking place.
That's very true because, it starts from, if you're taking the whole value chain creation, you're starting from drying activities where you are using a certain kind of energy to dry the cocoa beans. And then when you are done, you are winnowing. After winnowing, you are crushing. After crushing, you may be tempering or moving to the next stage. If you are focused on, let's say, cocoa butter production, that's a lot of energy. Before even then, you are coming to chocolate, which includes mixing, refining, conching, molding, and then wrapping. So it's indeed very true that chocolate production and cocoa processing in its entirety consumes a lot of energy, which is directly proportional to the amount of carbon emission that you would find.
And this goes without saying, Eric, that there'll be a lot more demand for energy. Because if you look at the global market dynamics, there's an ever-increasing demand for cocoa as well. So how can companies ensure that we're in line with the nationally determined contribution? And even from your side as Cocoa Board, how are you helping these companies shift towards renewable or something more efficient there?
Thank you once again. In our development, the strategy that we developed, these processing companies, the government itself has put in place the need for 50% of our cocoa to be processed locally. We are doing so. However, the challenges that Cocoa Board is facing is the size, the bean size, because they have calibrated their machines to produce or mill the cocoa or crush the cocoa with the light crop size beans.
You'd have to break that down because that's a bit technical for anyone knowing about this for the first time.
Yes, the beans that we take over from the farmer, they are sizes. We have the large beans, we have the small beans, and then we call them light crop. And the percentage of the light crop that comes out of the main season is about 18 to 20%. So if we keep on telling the factories to take these light crop beans, which is also at a discount, to reduce their cost of operation. So when we are not able to meet the demands of the processors, that's the processing companies, then it means they have to fall on the main crop beans and compete with the external buyers who buy at a higher price. So this becomes a little bit difficult or challenging for these processing companies to acquire these light crop size beans from our produce or our warehouses. However, management is taking into consideration the need for them to have a one-on-one collaboration with Cocoa Board for them to see how these main crop beans can be added to the light crop beans for them to produce up to the 50% that government has put upon itself to do.
And what's making this much more complex is the associated challenge of deforestation, which is contributing much more to land use emission. Are you mindful of that while dealing with this should I say, downstream or upstream sector challenges that you're pointing out to?
Yes, of course. That's why I said earlier on that there are a lot of things that Cocoa Board is putting in in place. Apart from the climate smart cocoa production practices that we want the farmers to indulge in, we have set of programs, interventions that we are having with the farmers so that they don't expand into the forest reserves, because most of them live within the forest, around the forest, fringe communities. So we have this, we encourage them, or we involve them in mass pruning, which is one of the agronomic practices that will help the farmer increase yield without expanding their farms. However, there were already admitted farms. When I say admitted farms, communities that were already existing in the forests, and they've been gazetted. So they have farms within the forest areas, and we trying to improve their yields, that's intensification of production, for them not to expand into the forest. So
do you pay them for that?
Do we?
Do you pay them for that?
Not really. We provide them with inputs for them to improve their yield without falling. So if you are working within an acre and you're getting about 3 bags of cocoa, with these interventions, you can increase your yield to about 10 or 8 or 10 bags. And there are other ones, like apart from pruning, we are helping them with their soil fertility, which is the high-tech program. We are also teaching them to do hand pollination, where they can have enough pods on each tree if left alone. And then the cocoa rehabilitation. About 28% of our cocoa tree stock has been infected with the cocoa swelling shoot viral disease. And there's a need for us to speed up and make sure we rehabilitate these farms. When we are rehabilitating the farms, we encourage them to practice those new farming methods, which is the climate smart cocoa method. So these are some of the things we are putting in place. Secondly, we are also considering meeting the European Union due diligence regulations, and in doing so, we making sure that we are able to trace the cocoa from the plot of land where the cocoa was produced to the port of destination. And so we've rolled out this program nationally just this last week. That was 7th August, last 2 weeks. And this is what we are doing to make sure we meet the EU due regulations.
Right, and I believe that will complement a lot that's been happening. Even the Forestry Commission a couple of days ago also did some certification on forestry just to meet the new, FLET regulations as outlawed by the EU. So quite a lot of work you're doing there, I see, Eric. But here's my personal belief, and you both can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel that innovation can tackle, some of the challenges that we are facing. And Mike, I should be starting off with you, because you have that practical experience of what's even going on behind there. The team has been there, seeing a lot of innovation that's going on. How much more innovation do we need in driving change and making sure that we're using energy efficient modules in producing cocoa?
Right. Before I answer on innovation, maybe I'll touch a bit on what he just said. Especially in connection with the possibility of managing deforestation conversations. You would start from the angle where the cocoa farmer, for starters, should be paid a good amount for the produce. That means that they don't necessarily have to go looking for more territories, more areas to grow more cocoa. If they can make meaningful amount of money from the same conservative farms that they have. So naturally, this would be discouraging if they have to do this. Now, if this is not happening, trust me for sure, from a practical perspective, they would be looking for more and more lands to plant their cocoa, and this would be contributing to deforestation. It starts from there. Now, if you are able to have them concentrate their farming activities within a localized environment, then you can also include and introduce these new ways, these new methods of farming, which include dynamic agroforestry programs, where you would realize that there would be a complete reclaim of the same lands they have already planted on, because then if you take a concept like dynamic agroforestry, it's just the introduction of other kinds of crops and not just following the typical traditional monocropping practice that we have seen. So they have cocoa trees interplanted with biomasses, with cash crops as well, and then this automatically begins to restore and captures the emissions that we'll find in the environment. So now coming back to the question of innovation, of course, we would need this because for Fair Afrique, for example, we are producing the best chocolates in the world. Everybody needs food. At some point, everybody would love to snack on something very good. But this comes at a cost. Now, whilst we understand that there is the human need for food, it becomes our responsibility to do this in the most efficient way using today's technology to reduce, first of all, for example, the amount of energy that is needed to produce a kilo of chocolate. And whilst at it, we should be able to also use the same innovation to reduce the amount of waste that normally will be generated out of these production processes. It's either you are finding technological know-how to bring back these waste into production so that you are not destroying the environment, or at best just making sure they don't even happen in the first place. So for us here at Fair Afrique, we have also looked at the possibility of improving on chocolate making production processes. For example, like we are one of the only chocolate companies in the world who have completely shunned aluminium for wrapping system because aluminium destroys the environment.
Please, a round of applause for them. They've done a great job there.
Now we are focusing heavily on a material we call, it's a biodegradable material called Nature Flex. It's made from bamboo pulp. It's 100% biodegradable. The entire packaging of our products is 100% biodegradable. So you are not destroying the environment. Now these are conscious efforts through innovation that the company has put in line. Yes, it increases cost of our operations, but we believe that the future belongs to the next generation. So we are only being leased this opportunity, so we need to protect it before we hand it over.
And to that I say the future is exciting. If you're joining us on the Joy News channel on our sister platform at Dome 106.3 FM, then you're listening to Climate Talks. It's the fourth in our edition. We've been to a number of places. The last place was Tema, of course, where we're talking about cement production, green cement production, insightful conversation there. But I'm more excited that we've brought the conversation out of the Greater Accra region. Now we are in the eastern region, of course, near Sum, where we're bringing you this conversation on greener production of cocoa, looking at energy, efficient energy, and also waste management as well. Quite an insightful conversation we've been having since we started this morning, a couple of minutes ago. But you know what? It's only getting better because I want to hear from Letitia Abrakum-Nyaba, who's director for Ghana National Cleaner Production Center Authority, and of course she's a chemical engineer herself, so she understands the dynamics of what's going on and what emissions mean to us. Letitia, it's good to see you, and I like where you're sitting. You're in between two great men, and I believe that, of course, your views on these matters will also shape climate action. So let's get to it by, first of all, knowing what you do at GNCPC, because not a lot of people know about your agency. You agree?
Thank you. Thank you very much, and sorry for coming in a little late. Thank you for the opportunity. The Ghana National Cleaner Production Center is set up by the Environmental Protection Authority, and it is to promote resource efficiency and cleaner production in SMEs, MSMEs, more or less. So you see that over the years, the Environmental Protection Authority's approach has been compliance enforcement, but the Ghana National Cleaner Production Center does compliance promotion. So instead of carrying the stick, the Cleaner Production Center of the authority carries the carrot. So that is where we support industries to be efficient in their operations. So we look at resource efficiency. What am I doing? Can I do it with less? You want to eliminate waste from the system. You don't even want to look at end of process solutions. You want to look at solutions that is in your process that will also prevent waste from being generated. because if you look at the resources you use in your operations, it's money. It costs you to buy, it costs you to transport, it costs you to store, it costs you to process. So whatever you are losing is actually part of your investment that you are losing. So there's this from the Ministry of Sanitation, they say that it's materials in transition. We also want to say it's money in transition. If you are able to capture it, then it also inures to your operations. It's more profit for you. You are complying. Your image out there is also good. You know, you are telling people, yes, I'm committed to sustainability. So we look at energy, we look at 5 thematic areas. We look at energy, we look at materials, we look at waste. We want to call resource, we don't want to say waste. We look at chemicals as well. So, and then we look at water. So those are the thematic areas that we focus on.
And Marcy, you're doing a lot there at your agency. And for the purpose of this conversation, we're just segmenting them largely into 2 areas, energy efficiency, and you don't want to call it waste, but resource management, I should be calling it now. But there's no doubt that energy efficiency is at the heart of our NCDs, what we've committed to as a country. How are you inducing the likes of Ferrafric and the others to meet higher standards, right? How are you using the carrots in a nice way to ensure that they meet standards? How are you going about it largely?
Okay, so what we do is engagement. So first of all, we create the awareness. We come to you. We assess your process. You know, you want to be efficient. You want to reduce or eliminate the waste that you generate. So you cannot make improvement if you don't measure what you do, if you don't assess it. So the first thing we do is to come and assess your operations, whether we are looking at energy or materials or any of the thematic regions. So the first thing is to do an assessment. With energy, we want to look at your process. We want to check and see what your significant energy users are, and then determine their contributions to your operations. And then we want to see how they contribute, what amounts they contribute to your energy use, where your wastes are coming from, then what savings you can also meet. And then we generate options as to what you can do to improve on your operations, okay? So we look at your base load, we establish a baseline. That is the baseline that you want to implement your options to improve on. So that is what we do. So we look at the solutions. If it is training for your personnel, for your staff, to induce behavioral change, we do that. Then we support you. We do the cost-benefit analysis, the payback time for your options. Then you decide which one you want to implement at a time.
I see.
So it's a cycle. You plan, you do, you check, and then you come back.
Right.
So it's continuous improvement. So we don't even want it to be a destination. It is something we want to encourage companies to do, improve on your improvements, improve on your improvement all the time.
I'm sure that you've been here and some other places, some other factories, and you've identified a number of challenges there. But before that, I just want to bring in Eric and Mike before we move to that phase of the challenges that you are identifying. Eric, the point about how often we find you liaising with the likes of GNCPC, so that you're able to work together. Because sometimes you're working in silos, then of course you'd be addressing the issue with different approaches.
Yes, I agree with you. These were in the past, that was what was happening. That's why I said we've now engaged in the private sector and then other institutions. Currently, we've started with the Forestry Commission, and we are collaborating because we saw that there was the need for us not to be working in silos. So the same way, we'll be moving giving our hands to these energy efficient agencies. The GNPCC will also come in. The need for PPP is very critical in these the way forward for us. So that's why we've even launched a platform which we call the Cocoa Monitor, where we have all these stakeholders come on board to draw or to talk about issues that are bothering the cocoa sector or the cocoa industry. So these are some of the things we are putting in place to make sure other institutions, other agencies come on board for us to drive the country forward.
Don't you worry if you're in the audience and perhaps you want to make some interventions. We'll be opening the floor shortly, at least so you can have your first take on the issues of energy efficiency. But just to give you that final take, and please ready yourselves so you can make some interventions on the aspect of energy. So probably the team can get the microphone across to you so you can come through. But Mike, the point about opening your business app for regulation and inspection, if I should call it as such. Because of business secrets, most of these organizations do not want to open up, right? It's not that easy because most of you wouldn't want to open up at all times. I'm not saying that's what Ferrafric is doing, but it's often a challenge, right? So how do you open up, embrace inspection so we are collectively meeting our nationally determined contributions?
I think we have clearly demonstrated our willingness to open our doors and to regulators, first of all, by even allowing that we have this discussion here in an open environment and you can see things for yourself. I get it why businesses perhaps sometimes may not be very, very willing, because traditionally, and what we have seen as practice especially, sometimes it may look like regulators are just looking for that mistake, that one mistake to hit you and then
so it's
fine
not
you.
all carrots, as we've been told.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my carrot actually. You know, it's typically, you remember when we were growing up, we sometimes heard, I'm not too sure how it's true, but even among teachers and lecturers in the staff common room, they are asking themselves, how many students did you fail? So sometimes we also get the impression that there indeed isn't a clear demonstration of support for compliance, and rather it is a situation of having to find faults. Because typically, sometimes as processors, you may not have all the solution. And even when you know that obviously this may be problematic, you may not have the resource to fix the problems. And so you would depend on district assemblies, EPAs, FDAs, and her agency, for example, for solutions. Now, the way it's designed, the way our system is designed is such that the cost of implementation of these innovative waste management, energy efficiency models must be truly just on the books of the processor. And so you're asking yourself, because at the end of the day, the key objective of every business is also to make profit. So how much of this are you making out of taking care of all these responsibilities? And that's why for Ferrafric, for example, we do not take it lightly when we partner regulators and other support groups like Rebuild, for example, who are providing funds for us to buy cocoa from cooperatives that are inculcating dynamic agroforestry practices within their farming methods. When you have people coming up to give you money to buy cocoa beans, that takes a bit of a burden off your shoulders, and then you are quite open about all the other challenges that ordinarily you may have just hidden.
Great points there, and we'll be coming to the audience shortly, so please ready your questions or interventions and make them brief as possible so we can be mindful of time. Letitia, you were hiding the stick from us, but now Mike is making us aware that you sometimes carry the stick. It's not just the carrots all the time, right? So let's tie that into some of the challenges that you identify when you engage and meet some of these cocoa producers. Yes.
So I want to tell Mike that for my authority, for EPA, the stick is the very last resort. When you hear EPA is applying a stick, then it means that we have exhausted every avenue. We have given the proponents the undertaking every possible opportunity to get it right before we apply the stick. I can attest to that any day. Because we also recognize the very important role they play with employment, with adding value to our raw materials, to their contributions to the economy. So we don't apply the stick just for the fun of it. It's when SMEs have been very recalcitrant, then you have to be seen to also be applying the stick to get them to comply. So we are here to support you. I can say for EPA that you can come with your issues. This is the problem I'm having. If you have your permit, there's a schedule to the permit. Do A, B, C, D. When you have any problem with meeting some of the conditions, they are open. These are the discussions. And then we see how we move forward. Because some of the conditions cannot be met in a day. So some of the problems I have encountered, one is the availability of data for you to make any decision on being efficient in your resource use, in your energy. For you to be efficient, you need data, and the data is not collected. So that is one serious challenge that is there. Now, even when the data is there, undertakings are not prepared to part with the data for you to do the analysis that to provide them with the support and the solutions they so much need. So if you provide wrong data, it means that you are going to get a wrong solution, and so the problem is going to be there. Then the other thing is also the inertia, the resistance to change, to something new, because we've been used to doing things in a certain way. A lot of people, we've done it before, it won't help, we are only for profit. And now, even some of the funding for the work you do are tied to these sustainability indicators that you have to work towards. The funds are no longer free, so it is good for us to work together as partners. When you show good faith, I'm sure there's no regulator, because our work also depends on you working, so we will not take you out.
So when you succeed, Mike, then of course Letitia
will
also
succeed.
Be happy.
Exactly.
That's very true. And I think the support that we've received within this corridor, the Eastern Corridor, right from the GRA, the sector commander in Kufuor-Dua, the EPA boss herself, after her appointment, and the regional boss all made a trip here to see things for themselves. So I can attest that carrot was served. True. Yes.
Great. Okay, if you're watching us, this is the fourth edition of Climate Talks. We're enjoying a great deal of partnership from the German people, and the German mission is also here. We're grateful to them for bringing us this insightful conversation. It's time now to go into the audience and find out if you have some questions or interventions. Please show by hand. Probably would move the microphone to you as early as possible so you can make your intervention. We'll be moving into the aspect of waste management, which is another key area that we will be looking at. So kindly introduce yourself. Please be brief if you're making the point. We'll pass the microphone on to you, and then you'd be able to make your intervention. And also, just to point out that, do we have someone in the audience yet? Just to point out as well that we'll be moving into the aspect of waste management. So I want us to move right into it because of time as well, while we wait for the audience interaction as well. Let me start off with you, Eric, because waste management is key. It's not just about energy, but it's also about waste. Letitia says we shouldn't call it waste because sometimes it becomes a resource to us. Are you turning waste into resources at Kokoport in any way?
Yes, we do. There is the saying that the cocoa pod, every part of it can be used. I'm
interested in that story. Just hold on for me briefly. Let's go behind there, Eric. Apologies. Let's take that intervention on the energy aspect, and then we'll be interested in hearing that cocoa story. Yes, kindly introduce yourself, and let's hear your intervention then.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Eshia, and I'm in charge of organic groups producing cocoa within Eastern region. Fair Africa also buy organic cocoa from us as part of a way of also contributing to reduction of carbon emission, because when we produce in organic way, it means that we reduce a lot of chemical which is being put into the soil. My question is, most of the time we find it difficult to get some of these because we don't use chemical fertilizers and that of the pesticides to control. I'm talking chemical pesticide to control the pests. I just want to find out for maintenance of the, or for the farm to also continue to get the raw material for us, then there should be a need for us to also to get this input, especially organic and organic pesticides in a way.
So you want the, just to be clear, you want the inputs provided by Ferrofric or Kokode?
Yeah, there should be a collaboration because if we are not able to get this input, it means that Ferrofric can also not get the raw material, which is organic beans, for them to also to process into organic chocolate.
Okay.
So my concern is, what is the Kokode and then Ferrofric doing in order to support this organic group where they source organic cocoa from?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Great point there. Probably we might want to just answer him while we wait for others to also join the conversation in the audience. There's one gentleman in front. Kindly pass the microphone to him. Maybe, Eric, you want to deal with that, and then the rest of you can have your take on that. The need to provide at least organic inputs.
Yes, I agree with you. Organic production needs these organic inputs, and I think there is one LBC that is, we know, that is producing this organic cocoa. The LBC has been in touch with Cocoa Board, and we give him all the assistance that he needs to be able to purchase whatever he has to do with when it comes to fertilizer, and organic insecticides. Yeah. So I think what we have to do now is to strengthen the collaboration between that particular LBC or the LBCs involved in organic production and Cocoa Board to make sure the farmers get the inputs available for production. And I think with that, Ferrofric will be able to get its raw materials to produce more. Thank you.
Letitia, you have any take on that?
Yeah, I want to say that this also presents a great opportunity because now there's a market for organic fertilizer and also organic pesticides. So I am looking at the value chain, the cocoa value chain. Is there something in the value chain, our waste from the cycle, that we can use, that we can harness? Our shells, most of the companies are using them to fire their boilers, their furnaces, but the residue that comes from it is ash. Sorry, I'm going to the waste management thing, but it also provides an opportunity. That ash contains a lot of potassium that can also serve as fertilizer. So there should be research, and then there should be investment, and then let's see how we can commercialize these outputs from our processes for our industry.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Let me give the last take before I go into the audience, Mike.
Okay, great. So as a processor, we don't have the mandate to make these inputs like he's describing. But what we can do, or what we have been doing, is to provide certain incentives that are supposed to keep the farmer still glued to the method of organic farming. And so for our company, for example, we are allocating premiums covering organic cocoa beans and then also dynamic agroforestry, meaning that if we are buying from a cooperative that is doing organic and is doing DAF, then you have double premiums that supports in that, like it's an additional top up to already what you'll be enjoying from the produce. So this is to keep the farmer still motivated at growing cocoa the organic way. That's the best we can do to keep the farmers quite motivated. And then perhaps if there are platforms like this where we are beginning to hear that organic fertilizers, organic pesticides are really a challenge, we may use our influence to speak to Cocoa Board and also other agencies and see where we can push the needle. But it's not our core mandate to provide these materials.
Okay. For the sake of time, what I'll do is just to go into the audience, take the interventions briefly, then we move into waste management and we call it a day then. There's a gentleman in front. Kindly introduce yourself. Yes, you have the microphone, sir. Introduce yourself and let's hear you then.
Thank you. My name is Kweku Samanobul. I work with GIZ. So lately we've seen a lot of decline in the volumes of cocoa Ghana produces. I don't know, so how much of this decline can Cocoa Board say we are accounting or assigning to climate change? How much of this decline is assigned, like maybe the effect of climate change is contributing to this decline, percentage of decline of the cocoa produced in the country? The second one has to do with, I see that Cocoa Board do a lot for farmers and then the production level, but when you move up the supply chain, based on our structure in Ghana, you always have to move cocoa to Cocoa Board takeover centers. So a lot of vehicular movement of cocoa beans and all that. Is Cocoa Board considering introducing electric trucks to be moving those cocoa around as a way of contributing to at a mitigation measure for climate adaptation of that? Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. Your first question, we talked about the contribution of, or the decline of cocoa, what percentage of it is going to climate change. Yes, we do, but it's not that significant compared to the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease. We can also attribute the disease to the climatic conditions that the cocoa finds itself. So in a nutshell, it's just the CSSVD which has had a significant effect on the cocoa production or the decline. And like I said, we are taking bold steps to make sure or to ensure the cocoa farms that are being diseased are rehabilitated. The other one, talking about the movement of the cocoa from the warehouses to the processing factories. Yes, I agree with you. I think we are going through the green economy, and I think that's the best way forward. Management will be taking these into consideration in some of these decisions that it will be making forward.
All right, thank you, Eric. Okay, a lot more hands up. We'll do the gentleman in front and come back to you.
Good day, everyone. So my name is Godfrey Hammond. I'm the salesman for Fair Afrique. The private sector is a very integral fiber of every economic growth. Setting up a private business, and for
what we'll do now is to swap the microphone so everyone can hear you, because there are lots of people online and those at home who would want to get your point then.
So to get a 5 kVA solar inverter for a plant could cost a minimum of 1,000 cedis. Now, how is the government and the whole structure putting or inculcating the local financial institutions to support this green transition? It will cost. What are the financial determinants, or what are the financial procedures that are going to help private sector to be able to access these funds, to be able to buy these equipments and energy alternatives to be able to support their trade? And I'm sure we'll be very happy to have an understanding of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Climate, the financing of the transition has always been an issue, but there are some steps. We have made some strides. There are funds, I think, in the banking financial sector. A few months ago, there was something on solar by one of the banks, and then there's another bank I know that has funds to support solar installations. So maybe after the program, I'll share with you to find out who is there, what they can do, what their conditions are, that you can also access. Thank you.
Is that an opportunity?
Yes, it is an opportunity.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's an opportunity.
Did you know of this, Mike?
No, I actually wanted to add finding these partners. So allow me use the opportunity to give free publicity to those who have helped us. For example, our roof, we didn't have to pay for the solar panels and the system that you are seeing right from onset. The concepts that Igoligo, which is the company that brought this initiative, combining with AB Solar. So what they did was to provide the panels and the entire integrated system, and then we are paying over a spread period of 7 years until we own the property. So this is an initiative by these two companies that has supported a company like us, especially at a time when we started with very little budget. So if you find a company like Igoligo, like AB Solar, they are positioned to support SMEs and other processes like what they've done for us.
Oliver Twist, you want to ask for more? So Letitia will give us some more platforms where you can get support. Yes.
Okay, so if I'm allowed to mention a few, there is a facility at Cowbank, and there is also the EcoBank also. They also have facility to support these initiatives.
So you can take advantage of that.
You can take advantage of that.
Some more questions and interventions then. Yes. Kindly introduce yourself to us, sir.
Yeah, so my name is Eric Mensa, and I work with the Palladium International, and I'm also leading implementation of a project called the Revenue Facility. Been working with Fair Africa for the past years, and the project is being funded by the Kenyan government, funded by the Kenyan government, so that's why we are here. So my question goes to Mr. Eric. So I'm much more trouble with deforestation. And normally, those who normally, so I'm an implementation manager, so I normally go to the field and I have an encounter with farmers. So there seems to be, the agencies in Ghana seems to work in silos. For example, Cocoa Board, let's say at the top level, there seems to be a lot of collaboration between Cocoa Board, Forestry Commission, and others. But at the ground level, it doesn't. Because a farmer will complain to you that they've cut a tree farm. And when you ask the companies, oh, I have what do you call it, a permit. And this permit was given to that company in Accra. It's not only the tree that they are taking from the farm, but the impact on the farm. Sometimes they just destroy part of the farm. They pay no compensation to the farmers, and the farmers seems to lament on it. This is one of the, the negative impact of deforestation. Though we are marketing the tree, but what is the impact of taking the tree from the farm? What is the impact on the farm? What is the impact on the livelihood of the farmer? Okay, so, and when you complain, the TOs or the technical officers of Cocoa Board are helpless because they cannot do anything. When you say so, then go to Forestry Commission. When you go there, oh, you too, also go to Accra because the person came from Accra. So we need this kind of collaboration to transcend to the basic level and not always at the high level. So this is a suggestion that I'm giving to you. Yeah. To us now, you are acting. I know very soon you'll be confirmed so that.
All right. Okay, great points there. You would all have to buy lunch for Eric this afternoon because so many questions for Eric. Anyway, let's do more questions and then we'll answer all of them together. Yes, because of time. So I want us to tackle the waste aspect before we go. Yes.
My name is Frederick, and I am the accounting manager for Fair Africa. So all the questions that are coming are pointing to just one direction: partnership. When you look at the SDGs, the 17th is partnership for goals. I think we have been talking about the other aspect rather than buttressing on the partnership. Now, the partnership is for all the goals that have been listed. So if the government is positioning itself as a partner rather than a regulator, then we'll be able to achieve these goals. And that is the suggestion that I also want to give.
You know what? I agree with your point because partnerships can spur change and can bring about change. And that's why we're enjoying great partnership from the Federal Republic of Germany. And please, once more, let's put our hands together for the delegation here. Indeed, it's been a great partnership with Joy News and the German mission here in Ghana. That's why we're able to bring you such conversations. Well, of course, all of you are here asking for more collaboration. Yes, gentlemen, please introduce yourself. Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Roger Okai, and I work with the Energy Commission. My concern has to do with both Cocoa Board and Fair Africa. It will be in the form of suggestion and at the same time a question. I just want to find out whether they've thought about gasification by using cocoa pod hacks to be converted into clean gas for power generation. Because I have realized that when that is done, Ghana is the second largest cocoa producing country in the world. And when that is done, those who will be going around to collect the pods or the pod hacks will also get a meaningful work to do, though it will be indirect. So I just want to find out from them if they have a plan about
your name again, sir?
Roger Okai.
Okay.
Energy Commission.
Grateful to Roger. I was almost going to call him Prophet Roger. Because he's spot on. That was the next phase of our conversation. We're just about moving into the aspect of waste. Letitia keeps reminding me to call it resource because it's not waste. So let's move there, right? Gasification, that's the technical term for it. I'm now learning about it. And Eric, you were telling us that beautiful story about cocoa and the cocoa pod and how important it is, and that it's not just waste as many would see it.
Yes, like I said earlier on, the cocoa pod itself, when harvested, goes through a process, and none of its byproducts are left behind. After scoping the beans itself, we can squeeze, or there is this juice that comes out of the pulp, which can also be extracted and then reused as juice, pulp juice. However, the pod itself can go through the potash, can be turned into potash, which is also used as animal feed, can also be used as fertilizers, livestock fertilizers, and can also be turned into soap usage, which we consider as a livelihood, additional livelihood for the cocoa farmer. The pod, the juice, when extracted, I know of a company that is doing that extraction. About 20% or about 10%
yes.
of the tonnage of cocoa goes into that pulp juice, which is a huge amount, or can complement what the farmer gets from the beans itself.
Right.
Then this same juice can be extracted and used as alcohol. When it goes through another process.
I see.
So in the end, apart from the beans, which the farmer gets, sells to the license buying company for its money, there are a lot of usage that can, from the pod itself to the juice.
And we hear, of so many examples. And I want to give the final take to you two. Maybe start off with Michael to give us a practical way you're turning around the pods before we come to Letitia. How are you doing that briefly? And then we give the final take to Letitia, then we call it a day.
Okay. Unfortunately, we are not involved in the process from the farm level. We only buying the beans and then carrying out our production. But indeed, it's true. We've heard about the what can be done with the pod and even with the cocoa shells itself, where you are either making tea out of the cocoa shells or you are doing further processing of the pods to in the form of biomass to also generate energy. We have found ways of also recycling our own waste, to say, just like Letitia said. She says everything is very expensive now, and it is part of your assuming budget. And now it's even become expensive to dispose because then you'll be paying for cost of disposal. So we have found ways to recycle these waste that we generate as a result of our production processes, right from our packaging materials to the products themselves. We found innovative ways to bring this back.
Okay, we need to go, Letitia, in a few minutes. How do we get that?
I'll say that we are promoting circularity. We want to move waste as much as possible up the waste hierarchy as possible. Disposal should be our last option. So in our processes, let's see what we can do. Like Mike said, the packaging is now something that is organic, kind of. They've moved away from the aluminium foil, so you've eliminated a toxic component out of your operations. Okay, there's opportunity for innovation. Can we go to the point where the packaging is also part of the chocolate we are going to eat? So the avoidance of the weight as much as possible in your process. So sometimes you have to rethink even how you carry out your operations to eliminate the waste that is generated, and then see what you can do with it on site.
Yeah,
it always pays at the end of the day. It always pays off.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. I'm told we have allowance for just 2 interventions or questions. Any final takers before we go, please? And you'd have to be snappy about the points. Oh, so let's go back there. Please introduce yourself, and then let's hear you. Okay, right in front. Okay, so let's do the one in front, and then we'll get back there. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Peter Daz with the Netherlands Embassy. So my question is to Eric. You've had a lot of questions, but accommodate my...
A lunch pack for Eric today. Yes.
So you spoke a lot about the traceability. I want to be clear about who is paying for it. Is it a farmer? Is it the LBCs? Is it Cocoa Board? Or the foreign buyers? Who is paying for it? And what is the cost, let's say, per ton? Thank you.
Thank you. With the traceability, I think the farmer should be left out of it. It's going to be something that will be paid. I think the buyers are supposed to pay for these per ton. And I think it's hovering between, I can't give the exact amount, but it's between $150 to $200 per ton. That's if my memory serves me right. And that's what we are going to pay. So basically, it is not the farmer, so the farmer doesn't go through any of it.
The last one, briefly, sir. Yes. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Isaac Vifam. I work for Asetenapa Cocoa Farmers Cooperative. Okay, so a follow-up question on the traceability. We at Asetenapa, we do fair trade certification, and as part of the certification, you need to observe the standards, and as part of the standards, you do mapping and all that. Yeah, you talked about adopted farms, and I would like to know whether Ghana Cocoa Board has collaborated with Forestry Commission and Lands Commission or all the other stakeholders to come up with updated polygons regarding our protected areas in the country, because the one that we are still using is, I would say, the Kwame Nkrumah one, that is with the IUCN. That is the one that we are still using. I would also want to know whether we have agric lands in Ghana, and if we have agric lands in Ghana, do we have cocoa lands? All this should be gazetted so that it will help us, we the cocoa farmers. On traceability, yes, my boss is saying the cost is going to it's going to the traders and all that. But I can assure you that we the farmers, the cooperatives,
thank you.
We are incurring a lot of costs, a lot of cost in the traceability. So they should come back to see us.
Please, a round of applause for all of our guests and for you in the audience for doing a great job. We need to go, and this has been made possible by the Federal Republic of Germany for supporting Climate Talks. Grateful to all of you for joining us on the Joy News channel. My name is Blessed Ogunlane, of course. Once more, a big thank you to Fair Afrique as well for hosting us here in Zoom. We'll see you probably next time in your community. It's bye from all of us.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.